Hi, I'm reading from the book Färjan, The Ferry by me, Tomas Berglund, and we are on the 11th episode. My current medication with a fairly high dose of quetiapine, heminevrin, and nocinan means that a blanket is drawn over my consciousness. I simply forget what happened. It's like I lose myself. Anyone who has tried drinking large amount of alcohol knows what I'm talking about. In this case, In that case, you can experience memory lapses. You may not feel that you have had memory lapses, but when you start talking to someone else who was not that as drunk, you realize that you have one or more memory lapses. The first time is probably the most unpleasant. You wonder what you are capable of. I like a machine. It's lucky that I went to bed and not out on the town. I got out my last Apodus rolls. Why are there two? I don't know. Maybe I should open them and check. The question is whether I can handle it. I can handle it. Can't handle it. It feels like it's one of those things that I can wait until later with. Or no, I've gone through the bags and then I realized the difference and written another letter to my doctor and my contact person. There's too much communication, but I'd rather see that than someone missing something along the way. How did it turn out? Did it work out? Did it turn out as I meant and thought? Do we have the same view of things? It's important, terribly important. Consensus is incredibly important. It's been so long since I first got sick, or long since I needed to deal with the disease. I've always been more or less alone in the mirror of the disease. I've gotten into something that has pushed me up the pace. It may have been difficult for those around me to keep up. For me, it's been obvious that one thing leads to another, which leads to a third, and then I wake up one morning and I think, what kind of situation have I put myself in? This is only going to go downhill. There's no alternative. Ask me about oranges when I'm up, and I can learn everything about oranges. Then the fruit rots. I am so-called bipolar type 1, the worst variant that hits both up and down. Mania and depression and psychosis both up and down. Then I can end up in rapid cycling, high frequency, and mixed periods when you experience mania and depression at the same time. It tears you apart, and when I write about it, it feels like I'm standing close to the abyss. But as my cousin Tom and I noted today, it's been almost 3 years since I needed to be hospitalized because of the illness. The medications have worked well, and I may have tried to live so that my life endure instead of bursting. You could almost say that the disease is lurking in the background, like an old pike in the reeds, and then a small signal comes, a small sign. Most of the time you are somewhere around the normal range, neither too much up or too much down, and then I'm forced to perform. Forced may sound drastic, but it's something I feel I want to do or manage in my life, and then I stress myself out. I can feel joy and excitement, almost euphoria, and then my sleep is cut off, either a little or completely, and then I get worse and worse. It just keeps getting worse. I can become very productive, very high performing. Sometimes not everything I perform is of the highest quality, but the quantity can be large. When it comes to Johannes, it's a bit difficult to talk about an illness. He has a diagnosis, namely high functioning Asperger's, and he can be as clear and distinct as possible intellectually, but it's the social side that doesn't work. the relationship with the environment. Johannes can sometimes almost blurt out different statements. It seems like he's almost rude or uninvited, while at the same time it can seem like he's very shy. It can swing between different extremes. He likes to ask the same questions over and over again and evaluates the results in a completely different way. You can almost tell that something is crazy just by seeing him walking towards the car. He sometimes looks a little like a bird. When I describe the disease, I usually point out the wave motion with my hand in front of the person that I'm talking to. It's like I'm waving my hand in front of me, so that it's clearly visible that it's swinging up and down. And when I think about it, I don't know if the person I'm talking to will be any wiser that it swings. You might only understand that when you have been through it, or really looked into my life, or when you have seen how the wave motion has affected the people that surround yourself with. Is a wave motion with your hand perhaps very abstract? But I try to be clear and speak a clear language. What's the point? As a bipolar person, I have to try to use the clock, for example, to try to go to bed at more or less fixed times, to try to wake up at specific times, to take my medication seriously and take it at specific times and in specific amounts. Sleep is always important, how long and how good it has been. Do I need to sleep more? Can I sleep less? I have to think about what stresses me out and what brings me down, and then try to counteract or reinforce it. If I feel bad enough, I have to seek care at the hospital. I can get help in my daily life from housing support, employment, and my leisure contact person. It's generally good to be careful. With the disease comes medication. You wish there was only one way to go, but now there's a plethora of medications that work in different ways and with different side effects. You may need to take medication for the side effects. Lithium is a fantastic medication. It may be enough to have lithium. You may not need any more medication, but then there comes a point when you cross a limit. Then you usually resort to epileptics such as Agonil or Lamictal. These two drugs are well known as stabilizers. Then you may need some neuroleptics, which kind of cool down the system. Right now I need an antidepressant. In January we took the antidepressant off and I have been without it until a few days ago. I had a bit of an upturn in January. Among other things, I decided to move to Spain. I gave up my apartment, but now it has really been a downward turn instead, and I have started taking an antidepressant. But I have to take so much, it's like I'm missing a bottom plug, or maybe the whole system is a bit sluggish. You may start taking it and take days and weeks before you see the effect. That's how it is. I've known that for a long time. You simply have to be a bit careful. I have at least two friends who also have a bipolar disorder. One has type 1, while the other one has type 2. The first one swings maybe every other week, and it's terribly painful. I really suffer when he tells me how it swings. I wish him peace and quiet. It's tiring and pulls the whole body and soul when it swings so strongly. I can really feel sorry for him. The one who has type 2 is very extroverted. She's very active on Facebook, for example, and it's noticeable when things go up and down for her. And I wish her peace and quiet. She seems to have such enormous amounts of energy. It never ends. Even though I know them quite well, it's sometimes difficult to emphasize empathize with their struggle with their illness. There should be similarities. Up is up and down is down, but we are also very different. I can think that that here you should do it this way and there you should do it that way. And then the people choose to do something completely different, a completely different path than the expected one. And then that doesn't have to be wrong. Maybe there is no right or wrong. Every person has to go through all the phases. Sometimes there is no shortcut. You can be affected and frustrated, but it may not be possible to do it any other way. I saw a documentary about bipolar disorder when I was young. There wasn't much information at the time, but in it, one of the sick people is asked if he would want to get rid of the disease if he had the choice. And then the sick person answers no, with the justification that otherwise he wouldn't have been allowed to walk among the angels. Something like that. And that kind of how it feels for me also. I felt so much through the disease. It's hard to appreciate everything in an appropriate way. I don't think it's possible to empathize with another person's illness as deeply as you do if you have the disease yourself. It was a relief when I was diagnosed with bipolar type 1. It was like a light went on for me. There was a name for what was happening to me. It was not a known condition, and everything made sense to me. I was kind of vindicated, even though it's actually a different word that I'm looking for. Still, I waited almost from July to November before I took the medication, lithium. I suffered for several months before I received help. Above all, I didn't want to start a lifelong medication, which was the question. If you started with lithium, the idea was that you would continue with lithium. One tip that I could share is to go out and read on Wikipedia, partly in Swedish, bipolar sjukdom or bipolar disorder, and partly in English. It gives me a lot to read about the disease and to read about other people who have suffered from the disease. It's full of famous people who have had or have the disease. You're not alone, even though it can feel that way sometimes. There are, of course, more places than Wikipedia where you can find useful information. I have seen that there are groups on Facebook for those who have the disease and relatives of those who have the disease. I have not tried it myself. Next chapter, sleep. To be honest, I don't know why I sleep and how much sleep I need. I do know this, however, that if I sleep well, I stay out of the hospital. I don't need to be admitted. So much falls into place when I get to sleep. It's like I reset different connections in my brain when I get to sleep. It gets just the right amount of stress and just the right amount of relaxation. It's like I get to work to different problems during my sleep. I get the distance that I need. It's almost like sitting in a simulator. I live my life through my brain in my sleep. I try different strategies and I meet myself. I'm on my way. Some time ago, my cousins and I looked up the word sleep in an old dictionary. Then it came up that some people believe that sleep is our most natural state, the most natural state of humans, and that the waking part of the time is only for chasing food and reproducing. But I don't know. Can it really be like that? It's a breathtaking thought to believe in something like that. The most natural state, could it be when I close my eyes, when I go into myself, into my innermost being? That's when I encounter the most distant. Tell me it can be that way. That would be really fantastic. What I've noticed is that if I get heated up enough to the point of being manic, I tend to only sleep a few hours at night. For me, a little sleep is less than 7 hours, maybe six or less. It doesn't usually work very long with a little sleep before I lose sleep completely, and then I only have about a day or so before meltdown happens. Then it's like I short circuit my brain and I go into mania or manic psychosis. It's like playing several LPs at the same time. The records drown out each other, and in the end, there's just a murmur of sound. Or is it more like a cacophony, a lot of sound? If, on the other hand, I sleep a lot, I can get tired as if my brain is almost going into hibernation. However, there is a difference between depressive sleepiness and normal sleepiness. Normal sleepiness can be caused by, for example, having moved a lot and then relaxing, whereas depressive sleepiness is more difficult. It's like gnawing at you. You can't rest through the depressive sleepiness in the same way. You, you just get more and more tired, a vicious spiral. Or perhaps you shouldn't say that can't be done. It certainly can be done at a certain extent, but depressive fatigue is in its own way. It's like it's insatiable. I love sleep. When I relax and let go of reality, when I disappear into myself, then I feel absolutely great. I have no more worries. Will work out as long as I get to sleep. In an hour or so, I'll be ready for anything. Off to sleep. Yes, I'm a sleep junkie. I really want to rest, and then I can grab all the loose threads afterwards, whatever threads that may be. No thread is too long or too short. Give me sleep, and I give you a kingdom. Without the slightest hesitation, a kingdom for a minute. Give me just 60 seconds of sleep, and I'll do anything. Absolutely. This, along with the fact that sleeping pills have made me completely convinced that if not careful with my medications, alcohol, and my life in general, I will probably be addicted in a short time. May 7th, 2008 was the last time I drank alcohol. My little cousin's 30th birthday. I never want to have it to be like that again. There are many things you can fall into that trap. One good thing is that my addiction to different medications have been quite low. I can take the same amounts for a very long time. I don't have to adjust the doses very much. Sometimes it can be good to change medications for a period of time and then go back to the previous medication. I just talked to Johannes about sleep. He says he sleeps very well. He doesn't need necessarily go to bed at the same time every night, but he can sleep and sleeps well basically every night. That sounds great. I know he gets olanzapine, Zyprexa, which is a form of neuroleptic that works well against mania. He even has the version that you put on your tongue and it melts itself inside your mouth. I asked why, and he says he has big problems in swallowing medications. Then an oral dispersible tablet is great. For a while, I had the same medication as long-acting injection Cypadera, but not anymore. My sleep is its own. It has almost taken control of my entire life. I take medication so that I fall asleep at night. I think I produce far too much upward pressure in my own brain during the day. It's like it's running away, like rolling boulders down a slope. But it stops eventually. It calms down. It gets dark and night comes, peace and quiet. And then at a certain time, I take the evening medication. Then I get even more tired. And then I take the night medication. Then it's knockout. I have to bed down, and then I wake up in the morning. I have a plastic sheet on my bed, a layer of wetness protection, so because I can relax so much in my sleep.